Haiti continues, and we shall be bringing you up to speed on any further developments. So let's now head to Israel, where Palestinians in the sealed Gaza Strip are struggling to find any safe area as Israeli strikes demolish entire neighborhoods. The Hamas Interior Terror Ministry said that Israeli airstrikes destroyed the entire neighborhood in Gaza, with a large number of people killed or wounded. It said medical teams were unable to reach the area because all roads to it were destroyed. Rescue officials reported they have struggled to enter other areas in Gaza. The bombardment raged on. The Hamas militant group continues to hold an estimated 150 people who have been taken hostage, including civilians, among them women and children as well as soldiers.
علينا وعلى اولادنا وقتلوا اولادنا وقتلونا والله ما احنا عارفين وين نروح. بقول لك منطقة آمنة، أنا آمن، فيش آمن يا راجل. يا راجل ذبحنا يا راجل، ما حدش شايف، ما حدش حاسس فينا.
الشعب الفلسطيني صامد فوق أرضه مهما طال الزمن، لازم نرجع لبلادنا.
دمار شامل، أنا والشباب هجتها الفجر، الصبح يا تجينا. لقينا كل شيء مدمر. إشي مرعب، إشي مرعب.
Still in Israel, Israel said Wednesday its military struck 200 targets in the Gaza Strip overnight as Israeli troops massed near the Gaza border ahead of the potential ground offensive. Palestinian authorities said at least 900 people have been killed and 4,600 injured in Gaza. The death toll on the Israeli side from the Hamas attack that began Saturday rose to 1,200 people, mostly civilians, with another 2,700 wounded. And VOA reporter Linda Grantstein joins VOA's Vincent Makori live from Jerusalem for an update on the ongoing conflict.
Well, the latest is that Israel did form an emergency government, meaning that Benny Gantz, who's a former chief of staff, his party joined the government. The largest opposition party, Yesh Atid, has not yet joined the government. The fighting continues, and in the last hour or so, we've had reports of aerial infiltrations from the northern border, not from Gaza, where most of the fighting has been, but from South Lebanon. And there's concern in Israel that Hezbollah, which is an Iranian proxy, wants to open a second front against Israel, and so that Israel would then be forced to fight on two fronts, against Hezbollah in South Lebanon and against Hamas in Gaza.
Now, there has been talk of Israel actually sending troops into Gaza. How concerned are Israeli citizens about a ground invasion to this very thickly populated area?
Right. So a ground invasion is going to be very complicated. I spoke to a terrorism expert today, a former lieutenant colonel named Miri Eisen. She's the head of the Counterterrorism Institute. And she said that if Israel had to deal with about 1,500 Hamas fighters who crossed the border, on Saturday and massacred hundreds of, civilians, and the death toll, as we know, is well over 1,200. In Gaza, you're talking about tens of thousands of Hamas fighters. It's a very complicated operation. At the same time, there seems to have been a decision in the Israeli military that Israel can no longer allow Hamas to have any kind of military capability, and that Israel has to wipe out that capability any way it can, whether it's the airstrikes that we've been seeing for the last 2 days or whether it's a ground invasion. I'm not sure that decision has been made yet.
Now, we know that Hamas has hostages, and this has been of great concern. Some of them are actually American citizens. How feasible is it, or does it look from the military point of view that they can actually rescue any of these hostages without, causing any serious risk to themselves and also to the hostages?
First of all, it's not clear how many of those hostages are still alive. I know there have been sort of back-channel negotiations for some kind of prisoner exchange, possibly in 2 stages, letting the women and children out first and then the men. The details have been kept very closely guarded, secret, and it's probably better that way. Hamas will probably try to use those hostages as human shields. Whether or not that will affect the Israeli military campaign remains to be seen. But the Israeli government has not given any public information about those hostages.
Right, and in South Africa,